I'm Carolyn Evans-Hammond, and welcome to my tasting room. Carolyn's tasting room is where you can taste exciting wines with me. And tonight, we feature a flight of fabulous wines for fall. After all, there's nothing quite like coming in from the chilly weather and enjoying a great glass of wine on its own, with a nibble of cheese, or with a hearty meal. So, tonight's flight includes a 2022 Cabernet Mâcon-Lugny Pierre AOC Chardonnay from Burgundy, the 2022 Anselmi San Vincenzo from the Veneto, the 2022 Paula Cabernet Sauvignon from the south of France, and the 2021 Paula Estate High Altitude Malbec from the Mâcon Valley in Argentina. So, let's taste. The first wine in our flight I love because it's an affordable white Burgundy. It only costs about $25, which tells you that you can still get white Burgundy at relatively reasonable prices, and I like that. So pour yourself a glass and let's look. Notice the color, sort of a sunlit lemon yellow color, very, very clear, very bright, which means it's, that's the first thing you look for in a wine to ensure it's stable and not flawed. And on the nose, clean, bright, but coy, understated. And the more time you spend with this nose, the more time you realize it's quite nuanced. Do you notice that? So I'm getting sort of lemon curd, lemon zest, maybe a touch of bitter orange, but all very quiet. Salinity for sure, but salted stone or something like that. Classic for Burgundy. So, there's a complexity here at a reasonable price, and I like that. This is pure Chardonnay, 100%. It is, after all, white Burgundy from the Mâcon region. Let's have a sip and see what we're experiencing on the palate. Do you like that? I do. I like how seamless it is, which is a testament to balance. It tastes round, shiny, almost glossy. But there is a little bit of texture and enough texture to, hold the fruit in place and linger on the finish. So let's taste technically. We'll focus on the tip of the tongue to see if it's dry or sweet. Bone dry. Now this has, I know, about 2 grams per liter of sugar, which means it's bone dry, and that's evident on the palate. Now we'll just focus on the sides of the palate to see how much our mouth waters, to assess the acidity. Because it doesn't taste shrill at all or too sour, too tart when we're just drinking it. But let's see. Whoa, quite a bit of acidity. But because there's so much fruit stuffing, it cloaks that acidity and balances out the tension. And I love that because that acidity also scrapes the palate clean, makes it food friendly, and ensures it finishes really clean, which is so important, especially at the table. This is the kind of wine, to me, that is the ultimate fish wine. Pour it with fish and seafood, and you are laughing. Now, this is also, I think, 13% alcohol. Yes, so 13% alcohol, which means it's medium-bodied, and it's light enough and lifted enough not to overpower anything at the table. The other thing that I really like about this wine, is that it's the kind of wine you can pour in good company and feel really proud because it's so classic in style. There's a sophistication here that is really hard to miss. The second one in our flight is very different than the first. It is the Anselmi San Vincenzo from the Veneto region. Now, it is about 70% Garganega and 30% Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc. That's important because Garganega is actually the grape variety of the Soave region, the appellation. But this is not a Soave per se, because the producer left that region to make something entirely different, something that is his own. So that's what we're tasting, and I'm excited about it because it tastes, well, you'll see in a moment. So pour yourself a glass and notice the color. Notice the depth of color here. Great color, lots of beautiful yellow color, and it's glossy and it's clear and it's really lovely. Now this is, you look at this wine and you think it's going to be full-bodied, and yet this only has 12.5% alcohol, so it's actually lower in body. Alcohol level is an easy way to assess the weight of a wine. Lower alcohol usually means leaner wines. So give it a swirl and a sniff. Interesting, isn't it? So much more aromatic than the last one, far more pronounced in terms of, in terms of intensity of aroma. And the aroma, I'm getting peach. Like, this is so bang on peach, sort of baked peaches. Do you notice that? Now, there's not tons of complexity, but there is a little bit of nuance going on. So yes, there's peach, a little bit of orange, like bitter orange, a hint of something like tarragon or damp herb, and a little bit of stoniness underpinning all of that. So there is some complexity, and I love that. Mark of quality, this is a wine that's, less than $20. So it's an affordable wine, and I think it's one to know about because of all of these, the flavor profile and the aroma profile is fantastic for food pairing with things like curries. So let's have a sip. Focusing on the tip of the tongue, you notice it is not bone dry, is it? There's a whisper of residual sugar. It tastes dry if you don't focus there because the palate is scraped clean, but there's actually 5 grams per liter. So there's a little bit of residual sugar that just makes it taste really round, polished, glossy. Have another sip, and let's focus on the sides of the palate and see the acidity. Quite high, and that's because the tension between the acidity and the sugar create perfect balance. Acidity hides sugar, and it just makes everything, round and beautiful and quenching and lovely. It's the kind of wine you can enjoy cocktail style too, just on its own. Have another sip. Let's see how it's talking to us on the palate expression-wise. So articulate, chiseled flavors. Yes, there's the stone fruit, like the peach, white peach, as well as sort of a ripe yellow peach, baked peach. There's apricot, dried apricot, as well as fresh. Do you notice that? And underneath, I'm getting a lovely almond nuance, like candied almonds. Just beautiful. So lots going on. It lingers on the finish. It's very food friendly, but also a fabulous little cocktail style wine. And the third wine in our flight is a red from the south of France. Now this is the 2022 vintage of the Paula Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's a wine that I liked last vintage quite a bit, and I like this vintage too. So pour yourself a glass and take a look at the color first. Notice just how dark it is. Now Cabernet Sauvignon has thick skins, so it's going to impart a lot of color, but even more so when it comes from a warm place like the south of France. So quite a bit of color. We know this is 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, and it's beautiful. Give it a swirl and let's have a sniff. What I love there is, again, it's French restraint. This is not Cabernet Sauvignon from the New World where it's, very aromatic. This has that French coy restraint, which I love. So we're going to have to tease apart, I think, the nose a little bit. Cassis, blueberries, maybe blueberry pie with those biscuity notes too. Did you get that? Love that. And a little bit of nuttiness somewhere. Beautiful. So, on the palate, isn't that great? What I love is it's so drinkable. There's wines that you can sip and tire your palate after maybe a half a glass or a glass. This is a wine that you can drink glass after glass because it's refreshing, it's drinkable. And that's because, it's bone dry, no residual sugar at all, lightweight despite it being, 13.5% alcohol, but that alcohol is completely cloaked by beautiful yet elegant lifted fruit. There's no alcoholic heat whatsoever at the back of the palate, which is why we know it's very well balanced. And the acidity is fresh. It's not shrill, but it's fresh. Red wine can often seem very heavy, too rich to be drinkable, but this is sincerely drinkable. So let's have a sip and see what it's saying to us. Do you like that? I do. There's absolutely sweet fruit, blueberry, yes. It is bone dry, but the fruit expression is sweet, and I love that because it's tempered with a wonderful savoriness. I'm getting maybe pencil shavings, a little bit of that, a little bit of spice, that biscuity note we found on the nose that accompanied the blueberry pie, and a little bit of salinity on the finish. Maybe a wee bit of salt and pepper or something like that. So very food friendly, the kind of wine I would love to pour with all sorts of things at the table, but especially ham and cheese crepes. Now the last wine we tasted from France, the red, is actually less than $15 in Canada and less than $8 in the US, so it's a huge bargain. And another bargain that's a different style is the one we're tasting now, and it's from the Uco Valley. Now the Uco Valley in Argentina has altitude. That altitude keeps the wine upright, keeps the acidity there because of, cool nights, and we're going to taste it, and I think you're going to love it. So pour yourself a glass and take a look. Notice the color. Now the color is incredible. Again, altitude imparts depth of color to a wine, and Malbec. I mean, Malbec is a black wine to begin with because it's the grape variety just does that. So notice the color, great depth of color, and the kind of wine that when you look at that and you think, oh, I am drinking a big full-bodied red. That's what that says. Now this is full-bodied, 14.5% alcohol, and I think it's very well balanced, but we'll see in a minute. So let's give it a swirl and a sniff. Isn't that lovely? Now, far more savory than the last one, and also a different expression of fruit. Black plum, dried plum, slate, limestone, lots of, maybe a hint of charcoal, lots of dark things going on. This is a black wine with dark, muscular, brawny, big shouldered aromas. So let's have a sip. Did that surprise you? Yes, all the dark flavors are there, but it's lifted, quenching, drinkable, and that's what altitude does. So it's a wine that rolls in and yet is lifted and refreshing too. So let's have a sip, focus on the tip of the tongue to see if it's dry or sweet. Are you surprised? It's bone dry. There's less than 2 grams per liter of residual sugar, and yet there's so much lovely fruit stuffing that it doesn't taste austere or too dry or too, difficult. Also, the structure, like the tannic structure, is lovely because it's finely grained. So the texture is plush, but not too plush. It has enough structure, but the plushness is sort of velvety. And that velvetiness lingers on the finish and leaves a slight sifting of sort of a chalky texture on the finish. And that comes from the calcareous soil of the region, classic for the Uco Valley. So let's have another sip and we'll look at the acidity. Mouth-watering, delicious. This is a kind of wine that goes fabulously well with roasted meat. Argentina is known for their meats. This wine goes beautifully with all roasted meats. You can serve that with pride. And also, it's affordable at around, $17 in Canada and less than $15 in the US. So there you have it. 4 fabulous wines for fall in a range of styles. These are great wines to know about, especially this time of year. Which one did you like best? Hit me up on social media and let me know. And don't forget to like and subscribe because I'm coming right back with another flight of delicious wines here on Carolyn's Tasting Room so you can drink better and learn how.